Alright guys, so you are welcome to today's tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be talking about Python anonymous function. So you might want to ask, what is Python lambda function? So in Python, a lambda function is an anonymous function that can be defined on the fly without a formal name. It is useful for short throwaway functions that you may need to define as a full function with a name. When you know that the function you're about to write, you only need to use it once, Python anonymous function or lambda function might be a good way to actually write that function. So let's get started to it. All right, so let me see. Python, sorry. Anonymous, how do you spell that? Okay, so now let's get started to it, all right? So to create a lambda function, one of the simple way to go around it, normally if you want to create a function that squares number, so you probably want to say def, and then you say maybe sqr no, just like this, and then you might pass maybe a variable in it, and let me return x square. All right, so if we are to call this function now, and you print sqr null, that will request for x. So if I put 4 there, if I'm to run this now, of course the name of this file is lmd.py, so I can say python lmd.py. So you can see this function gave me 8. All right, so how do I write this in a lambda function? So I can take the exact name, comment this out. So you see how powerful lambda function is. So I'm going to have this name, and I'm going to set equals to lambda, I don't know why I'm getting this spelling wrong. So lambda function, all right, so x squared, just like that. So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating the x variable, which is the parameter. So, and this is the expression, what I want to happen to the x. So it's going to need you to put x, which is any number, and then it's going to multiply that number by 2. So that is the idea here. So let's print this out and let's see what this will give us. SQR null with 2, just like that. So for this second one, we should get 4. And voila, you can see we have 4 there. So this is the concept. So anonymous function like this, you could use it within an expression. We can use it in different contexts. So let's try a couple of examples just so you see different ways we can actually use this. So one of the ways we can also use this is we can use it to sort a tuple within a list. So for example, let's say we have a list of tuple. So we have tuple underscore list. That's spelling correct. Tuple underscore list, that's fine. All right, so we're going to have a list that has tuple inside. So that's a possible thing. And it's going to have 2, b, just like key and value. So I'm going to copy this, paste this out here. And let's say this is 1. And what should do? Okay, so let's make this A. Then I'm going to have the last one here. So I'm going to make this 3. And I'm going to make this C. Just like that. Now, what I want to do here is that I know that the numbers are 1A, 2B, 3C, but they are not they are not properly ordered. So I want to rearrange this. I want to rearrange the element of this list, the tuples, in their correct order. So how do I do that? So with Lambda function, that is really easy. That's easy to do. So I'm going to pass a sorted inbuilt Python function. So normally you could have a list like this. Let's say d equals to, so let me just randomly just generate some numbers that are not in order. So if you print sorted d, this is going to rearrange these numbers in their correct order. So let's see. And you can see the numbers are properly arranged now, so it's now 1, 2, 3, 3, and all of that. So now, for me to get this tuples rearranged in their proper order, so I'm going to try to do that right now. All right, so now that I already have it in a variable, I will call sorted on it, and then, of course, I will also implement Lambda function on the key. So yeah, let's get that done. So I'm going to say sorted list. All right. So in here, I'm going to set equals to sorted, which is what we want to really do. So then I'm going to say the name of the variable, which is this one right here. But if you print this out, this is not going to sort it actually. So let's print it. Let's see if that actually does what we want to do. Sorted list. Because of course, if it does it, there's no point. So you can see A1, 2B, 3C. Yeah, it actually sorted them the way it should be. But there's a better way to actually do this. All right, so and the idea here is to actually be able to, so which is this 1, 2, and 3. All right, so let's try to do that. So if you have, I'm going to have, so then I'm going to have the Lambda function here. So, and I'm going to say, even though the keys are not named here, so I could create my own anonymous variable, or I can also say key equals to Lambda. So I'm going to add X, and then I'm going to find the first element. So it's going to reorder this in their correct order. So I'm going to print that out. All right, so, and then now that, I've applied Lambda to this, let me try to do some commenting here, just so you will know the difference between the previous one and the, you will know that also actually got printed. So you can see now, there's actually no difference really. But, when you're working with a more complicated scenario, sorted might not be the solution or the perfect way to actually do this. All right. So instead of you creating a separate function that we have to look for the keys and sort them, this is a cool way to actually pass the function, or to create the function as an expression within your code. All right, so let's move on to the next example. Now, in Python, we have higher order array functions, so which includes reduce, filter, map. And the way all of them works is not just, those are not everything. There are more. And in my later course, in my later tutorial, I'm going to be talking about higher order array functions in Python. So but this video is focused on Lambda function. So now if you think about it, these functions, what they do is, when you are using higher order array function, they expect you to create a function, and then the expression you want that function to work over. So for example, we have map. So what map does is map will map the function over all the elements. Say for example a list. So if you want every element to be multiplied by 2, you might create a separate function that does the multiplication, and then you call the map on that, or you can call map on an array of numbers, and then you multiply each of the elements in a list, something like that. So I'm going to demonstrate it just so you have a proper idea of what I'm talking about exactly. All right, so I'm going to use filter for the first. So the first one is going to be filter. So what we're going to do really is that we want to filter out a list using a lambda function. All right, so I'm going to create a list like num list, just like this, and I'm going to set it. Okay, sorry, I think I commented out. So in the list, I'm going to have just random numbers, just like this. All right, so now how do we apply filter on this with lambda function? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out all the odd numbers in this list with lambda function. So I can say filtered num equals to, now I can say filter, which is the higher order array function there. So, and I'm going to create a lambda function, and the expressions is supposed to do. So I'm going to say lambda, just like this. So I'm going to say x, then x modulus 2. So what I'm saying here is that when x is divided by 2 and the answer is not equal to 0, all right? When x is divided by 2 and the answer is not equal to 0, and which list do I want that to be on? It's going to be in the num list. So let me put that here. So what I'm saying here is that I want filter to perform this function on this list. So in context, what I mean is that this function is going to require this num list, and this num list will be that 2 will divide each of the elements in the num list, and if their result is not equal to 0, it's going to print them out. So in other words, we are printing out the odd numbers in the list. So all you need to do now is to print filtered null. Just so, because I think I might have mistakenly mistyped, so it's better to just copy the variable. So I'm going to write a comment here just so I will know. Okay, let me just put that here, so I will know the difference between the previous one and the current one here. So I'm going to print that out, and okay, so it requires that I put a bracket in front of it. That's why it's printing out just the memory address. Okay, filter object is not callable. What does that even mean? So here's the problem. Now, even though we are able to do this, you need to convert this whole expression to a list. So to convert this to a list, you need to put something like this, list, and I'm going to go to the back of the entire expression. So we are converting the entire thing to a list. So that is the reason we are getting the error actually. So let's try to reprint this, and here we have. So you can see now we have 1, 3, 5, which is the odd number values from this list. What if I want to print the even number value on this? I can say even filter equals to list. Of course, you need to convert this to list. Filter, and then after the filter, I'm going to have a bracket. I'm going to say lambda x modulus 2. I can put space just so it can look readable. So not equals to 0. So basically what I'm saying is equal to 0 rather. So in this case, equals to 0 is what we need. So when you divide each of the element by 2 and their answer is equal to 0, and then which list do you want to pass it on? Num list. All right, so let's print this out. Print even filter, just like that. So if I reprint this now, we should get the desired result, which is 246. So you can see how wonderful this could be. All right, so let's move on to the next example. So in this next example, I want to use the lambda function with map to double each element in a list. The main difference between them is that filter sorts out or filters out, certain elements in a list, while map actually perform the function on each of the elements. So let's try to do an example just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. All right, so let's see, map over an array. So we want to multiply each of the elements, so we can say double list will be equals to, so you need to convert this also to list. Now, always remember that too. So you need to convert this to list for this map to work. So I'm going to say map, then give in the brackets, just like this. So inside here, I'm now going to have a lambda function, x raised to power 2. All right. So what I'm doing here is that I'm multiplying each of the elements here by 2. And what do I want to perform it on? Num list. So if I print this out now, it should double each of the elements in the num list, just like that. So if you take a look at that, you can see that each of the elements in the num list are multiplied by 2. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 times 6 is 12. So that's exactly what happened just now. Alright, so the next example I'm going to do here is to create, full name by supplying the first name and the last name using lambda function. All right, so let's call it create a full name by supplying first name and last name to a lambda function. So yeah, so another name for lambda function is anonymous function. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's see. So we'll have full name as a variable. So the full name, so we now have our lambda, fn short for first name, comma, ln short for last name. So now, this anonymous function can take more than one parameter. So unlike this one that we're just setting only one parameter, so this one is going to be first parameter, second parameter. So then I'm going to put full colon, and then after the full colon, the next thing you want to do is to put the parameter, the expression, what you want that function to do, all right? So in this case, I want to strip all the empty space. So I'm going to say strip. So strip is a built-in function to remove empty space in Python. So just in case somebody mistakenly type, with empty spaces. So strip, so then dot title. So what I'm saying here is that the name that is going to be supplied should come as a title case, right? So then I'm going to concatenate an empty space. So now here in between the first and the last name, there's going to be space so that the name doesn't get jammed together, just like that. So I'm going to put a plus sign here too, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the first name. This should be first name. What did I do? This should be first name first. So fn dot strip. So yeah, so first name, I'm removing all the spaces and I'm making it a title case. So the first letter is going to be capitalized. So then LN, short for last name, strip, all right, dot title. All right. So here now, what I've just done in this code that looks complicated is strip is just a built-in function to remove empty spaces, just in case somebody type without and I'm going to demonstrate that just so you see exactly what that means. So if I'm going to print out the full name now, of course it's a function that requires two parameters, the first name and the last name. You can see FN and Helen, just like that. So the first name, let's say Emmanuel. Now you can see I put in space here and space here, right? And then the last name, let's say Adubi, just like this. Now, how is this going to be printed? So the strip function is going to remove this space and this space. It's going to remove this space and this space. Just put out the two names side by side with just a single space. Alright guys, so here's the problem. So I kind of made the mistake of not putting this bracket behind this title, because title is a built-in function. It has to have a bracket in front of it. So that's exactly the mistake I made in there. Alright, so you can see now that we have name printed Emmanuel Atubi, and all the spaces behind in front of them are stripped out. Right, so that's really important. That's something you want to pay attention to. So in each example, the lambda function is defined using the lambda keyword, followed by the argument and the expression. In each of the examples that we've done so far, you see that, the lambda keyword is used, followed by the keyword, followed by the parameter, and then you have the full quotes. Then behind the full quotes, you're going to put the expression you want to execute. So that is how you can actually use a lambda function to create amazing function in Python. So if you want more tutorial on Python function, I've listed a card for my Python function tutorials above. So it's important that you understand how function works, because of course what we are trying to really do here is to make sure that you don't keep repeating yourself, which is one of the rules of programming, and which is DRY. And DRY is an acronym for don't repeat yourself. So any snippet of code that you know that you want to write a number of times in your code, it's best to put them out as a function. And this is just a way to actually, use a function within an expression and, make your life a lot easier. So if today is the first time you are seeing this channel or you are consuming my tutorial, please subscribe, like my video, share so that more people can benefit from this video. Alright, I've also listed out some videos that will help you, like data structure in Python, how to use Visual Studio Code that I'm using currently now, and all the different shortcuts that can help you optimize the software, and other tutorials like that I already have on this channel. So until next time, keep on coding.